up 30-fold in a year. The WHO is calling for vaccination efforts to be stepped up across the continent. Let's speak to Dr. Bharat Pankhania, an epidemiologist and senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter Medical School. Thank you very much for joining us on LBC News this evening. It's a real concern about levels of measles. How did we get here?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. That's a really good question. How did we get here? Because recently, United Kingdom Health Security Agency was setting up incident rooms and all sorts of activity to say we have a problem. But then people like us, people like myself, were saying we have a problem for a long time. In other words, our vaccine uptake has not been good enough for a good many years. And we have known that our vaccine uptake for measles, mumps, rubella has been lagging behind for a long time. Therefore, we should have been acting a lot sooner.
And I mean, just how big an issue could this be?
It's a very big issue because measles is absolutely misery. It makes the child extremely unwell, and then some of them will get hospitalized, and some of them will have subsequent bacterial infections like pneumonia. So it really is utter misery. And then, of course, very, very rarely, and I don't want to frighten people, but very, very, very rarely, you can also go on to have a persistent viral infection, which leads to this rare condition called subacute sclerosing panencephalitis.
And potentially it's not just children, is it? I mean, if you haven't caught it as a child, I guess you can catch it as an adult, can you?
Oh, absolutely. And again, my advice and my recent newsletter in Bath, I clearly stated anyone who has not been immunized or is unsure of their vaccine, irrespective of their age, check with their GP and they can be immunized. You can be immunized at any age, and any age can get it if they are under immunized.
We have obviously, we've come through the MMR scare of the 90s. We've come through the COVID pandemic, and there was a certain, vocal minority, wasn't there, that was questioning the COVID vaccination program at the time. But just to emphasize again the seriousness of this and how much of a tool vaccination is in preventing misery, preventing potential death, as you mentioned.
Oh, absolutely. And let me re-emphasize again, in the 90s, we had a erroneously paper published in the Lancet, which was subsequently withdrawn. And since then, billions of vaccines have been given. And I can say MMR vaccine saves lives. It is safe. And if I were a parent or an adult who has not been immunized, please do so as soon as possible.
Dr. Bharat Pankhania, thank you very much for joining us on LBC News this afternoon.
LB News.
Let's catch up with some of the other headlines we're following.